June 1st at Five Points Theater in support of Barrie Families Unite, an excellent night of comedy with, well, I'll have you pick your word. Is it icon, legend, veteran, just funny guy, Sean Collins, Canadian comedian?
I don't know. Some people, I get more comments about the Hostek and Bear story from people who bought my first CD years and years ago. That's how they know me. That's what they know me for. And some people call me a legend, but other people don't. And that's what it's all about. It's just about, I try to kick ass on stage, and I've been away for 20 years, and like a fine wine, I've gotten a bit better.
Talk about being away for 20 years. It's been not 20 years away from the Barrie area. It's been 20 years across the pond living in England. What brought you across the Atlantic? What facilitated that move?
The choice was America or the UK, simply because I had done everything I could do in Canada, and I wanted to see the rest of the world and to explore how far I could go. You can only go so far in Canada before you have to, try other things. And I'm not in any way slighting Canada, but I needed more. And I came over here and with an invite, a couple of things. I finished the Just for Laughs gala, and I got invited over by the owner of the Comedy Store in London. And I knew some other acts over here, and I'd never been outside Canada. I'd never been to England. And I came over and tried it, and did really well. And I loved the audiences. I started to come over more, and then, eventually met my ex-wife.
And it didn't scare you and force you to leave London, that experience. So what was it like acclimatizing for anyone who makes the move? It's a culture shock, but for a comedian, it's a very different, and maybe I'm wrong, is it a very different sense of humor in England as compared to Canada?
It's funny. I think humor and styles go around. I had to change when I came here from storyteller to more observational, only because when I came over here, sets were 20 minutes. I was used to doing an hour, but there was no headliner. You were up there with four other guys who could headline doing 20 minutes. So the shows were different in that aspect. So I had to learn to compact my material down, because some of my stories go 6-7 minutes. And, a lot of them, that's a Fort Lauderdale story. They don't know anything about that. So I learned to become more observational, because I was a Canadian observing things that they took for granted, and I could present them that in a very funny way. So I learned how to, to point out things that they take for granted, and got very good at it. And my heart is still with telling stories. And I'm doing that more now, because I'm touring an hour show called Smoking Funny around the UK as well. So I've developed over the last year a whole bunch of fans. Like, I've gone up to 200,000 followers on Facebook. So I'm able to do small theaters and stuff around everywhere I go now, which is nice, because I can sit down on that stool and do stories now. I have an hour and 15.
So talking about how the culture and how life in England has kind of enveloped you, has that translated to being a royal watcher? Did you watch the King's coronation recently?
No, I don't think everybody does. It's not something I find exciting. I find it, boring. But I also live over here, and I would never disrespect it in the aspect of, I'm not going to go out and I say, I think it's silly or anything like that. I think more people around the world have to realize, and I think it's becoming more evident, that when you go into another country and into their cultures, that it's rather than fight their cultures, it's better to accept that that's what they lived with and have lived with. Try to understand it, and whether you disagree or not, you don't have to rock the boat on it. I'm a visitor to this. My kids are English now. Honoring somebody who thinks they're better than you as a person, it doesn't really do anything for me. So,
well, I might be more akin to what you're saying, but we still watched, and my 9-year-old made a very astute observation, and that was, no one's laughing or smiling. I thought this was a celebration. Do they not know how to have fun in England? So can you concisely explain the difference, maybe in sense of humor? You talked about stylistically, but is there a difference in sense of humor between the English and Canadians?
Of course, but they also love to laugh. What you saw was basically, and what your 9-year-old saw was, there's not going to be any laughter in that situation. But at the same time, if you and your 9-year-old were at the pub around the corner with all the normies like us watching it, there would be laughter and, constant fun going on. It's like anything else. It's like going to a wedding. It's boring. So it's not going to be laughter and exciting. But yes, they have a great sense of humor. I mean, I grew up in the 70s in Canada, and I grew up on Fawlty Towers and Monty Python's. That was two of the shows that we got streamed over here. And Monty Python's was hilarious. I found it funnier than than most things. We used to watch it as a family. I thought it was great. I thought John Cleese was amazing. You know, so I grew up on that humor and that. So yeah, they get it. They understand it. They love Canada. They love Canadians over here. So it's great. There's a bar over here in downtown London called the Maple Leaf.
Oh.
And it's the Canadian bar and they open late at night during hockey playoffs, and it's all Canadians packed out in there, out into the street, drinking and watching the games through that.
Do they have a set menu, like a stereotypical Canadian menu?
Yeah. It's amazing.
So is it accurate, or is it a depiction that's a little warped by kilometers?
It's as best they can do. You know, you're not going to get poutine, I don't think. Maybe they do. I haven't been there in a while. Maybe they brought poutine in. The fact that you can watch hockey, and, you know, there's all sorts of little things over here. There's a hockey league over here, and it's, you know, it's a professional league over here, and I think it would match probably about junior A in Canada at best.
One more question on the English culture, because I noticed it when you said bar. You kind of sounded a little closer to my East Coast heritage with that hard R. And I'm wondering, 20 years, you have not picked up that English accent. How did you avoid being able to have your dialect unconsciously changed?
I think it's a stubbornness when you get to, I came over here when I was, you know, close to 40. So you're not going to change your accent. You're going to hold on to it. It's funny when I get back to the Ottawa Valley, though, and Carp, where I was born and stuff like that. That's when the car in the farm, and I start talking a little bit more twangy when I'm among the valley folk kind of thing. It's great. I don't even notice, but my kids have a very strong English accent, right? So I have 2 kids with British accents. So it's really kind of cool. They're looking forward to coming over. I want to teaching my kids how to skate over here because I want to bring them back to Ottawa and let them do the Rideau Canal because I think they would find that amazing.
That would be fantastic. Now they're going to experience the Canadian culture. You're coming home, first time, 20 years. June 1st at 5 Points Theatre in support of Barrie Families Unite. How big of a deal is this after 2 decades that Sean Collins is coming home?
I think it's a pretty big deal. I think it's going to get more and more of a big deal because I just think I kind of figured out social media and the way it's climbing now. It's great. So, you know, this year I'm hoping, and this is my goal, is to do this year, build on it, and come back and do the new show next year, and again hopefully do it in Barrie and do it for the same charity, you know, and start making it an annual thing that it grows. Every time I come back, I do Barrie, and hopefully even get a larger theater, you know, venue, or do, you know, more shows. We're hoping to sell it the first one. So I think people will come around, and I think everybody in Barrie, like, just you know me. You've seen me around. I was there, you know, for those who remember. You know, a lot of my humor when I come home you can relate to because I lived it.
The name of the tour, Smokin' Funny. Now, that could mean any number of things. Now, I don't want you to reveal too much, but is there a little explainer behind where the name Smokin' Funny comes from?
I think a lot of people know, and when they listen to my humor, that I used to be a stoner, and the fact that I say "smoking funny" makes people. It kind of, I took the name just because it kind of makes you, like everyone else, kind of think, is that what he's talking about, or is he just talking that he's smoking funny, meaning smoking funny? You know, it's just a clever thing. So come and find out. All right, that's what I suggest. It's caught on everywhere. It's wonderful to be at this state now where in the UK, when I come back, I'm doing some pretty big shows over here now, and it just means I can work hard on an hour show, do a tour, take some time off, spend time with my family, and then work on the next year, which is always what I've wanted to do.
I wanted to ask you if there's any fear of technology, especially in the comedic community, with the rise of ChatGPT, which you can ask to write creative ideas. Have you had any foray into it? And do you have any fears of what the future might be for your industry?
No, because I think people still like personal contact. I think one of the things that came out of the whole isolation and everything else that they did through the pandemic is that people need people. That's what Barrie Families Unite is about. I just think it's important that humans, the advancement of AI, it's frustrating because I just think, have any of you seen Terminator? Like, you know what I mean? Like, at the same time, I'm using an iPhone, so what a hypocrite am I?
Well, this might be a scary exercise, or it could just be a fun one, but I figured I would see how smart you are to picking up on what's real and what is ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to craft its own knock-knock joke about a Canadian coming home for the first time in 20 years. So I've got 2 knock-knock jokes, and I want to see if you can tell the difference between the one I made up and the one that ChatGPT made up. Are you ready?
All right.
So knock, knock.
Who's there?
Al.
Al who?
I'll be telling you how much I've missed Tim Hortons since I've been away, eh? Badum cha, if you will.
All right.
Knock, knock, joke number 2. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Fitness.
Fitness who?
I'll be fitting this whole 20 pack of Timbits in my mouth as soon as I land back in Canada, eh?
Well, I think regardless of which one is AI, I think what you've answered is the question, do I feel safe in my future as a comedian? I'm going to say yes.
Well, ChatGPT can't be offended, but maybe I sure can. Oh, man.
I'm going to say you did the first one.
That was ChatGPT. Al was ChatGPT. I was the fitness.
You were the 20 Timbits?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Sorry, Matt.
Well, you can't see me from the chest down, but trust me, I'm the guy that knows what a 20 pack of Timbits is all about.
Why don't you come to the 5 points and you can open the show with that joke?
Well, I'll have to get ChatGPT to write me a couple of more just to get me at 2 minutes worth at least.
All right.
June 1st, 5 Points Theater. Sean Collins coming back. Let me be the first to say welcome, even though you left yet, but we look forward to seeing you, and it is for a great cause. So thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks. Take care, bud.